that the product that we were building was the right fit. The team were working their butts off. We had the right engineering and the right product for the market at the right time. You can produce as many rockets as you want, but if you don't have the customers, then it doesn't work either. A huge sense of gratitude from us for all of our customers, but especially the early ones, who were really the pioneers in small launch along with us. So being first to 50 really matters. And it matters because, look, we're all competitive in this industry. It's an important kind of driver for the people and for the company. Everybody was pushing and continues to push to build vehicles and get customers in orbit faster and faster. Everybody says it's incredibly difficult. We've always said it's incredibly difficult, but it is incredibly difficult to scale a launch vehicle. I could not imagine building Neutron without having the experience of Electron. Now, a smaller rocket is actually harder to build and launch than a bigger rocket, and I can put my hand on my heart and say that now. The lessons that are learned on a small rocket can be learned at a much lower cost, both time and financially. So the magic with Electron and the team around Electron is that we understand that our customer is coming to us because they have very specific requirements for their spacecraft or for their orbit. So as a result, we've done the craziest things you can think of with Electron, whether it be deliver a satellite to the moon, deliver a hypersonic test platform, a rendezvous mission from a rocket, not actually from a satellite. Sometimes we'll go to orbit, we'll raise an orbit, we'll change an orbital plane, we'll drop an orbit, and that's fundamentally because the team and the product, we all understand that they come to us to do missions that nobody else can do. Flight 1 very, very much felt like climbing a mountain. One foot after the other, the odd rock slide comes at you, you dodge until you actually get to the top. We were shaking down a new rocket, a new launch pad, a new team, and doing everything for the first time. And what is today, very, very standard, we were learning all of this for the first time. One of the most satisfying things for me is actually seeing early employees, a lot of which came straight out of university. Those guys sat on consoles and made calls that are company, winning or company-ending calls. Watching those people grow into, senior leaders and managers and mentors for the rest of the company and the team is immensely satisfying.
What would you say to the team on reaching 50?
Party hard, team. We made it to 50 and we made it there the fastest.
Definitely agree with the sentiment at the end of that video. Congratulations to the Rocket Lab team all around the world.
Absolutely, dream team. Now, if you've been following us for the past 49 missions, you'll know all about Electron and exactly what to expect from today's launch sequence. But if you're joining us for the first time, here is what you need to know. Electron is what's known as a small launch vehicle. It stands at 18 meters or 59 feet tall, and it can lift a payload with a mass of up to around 320 kilos or 705 pounds. Today's payload, though, is around half that mass at 150 kilograms, and the rocket is pretty lightweight too. Electron is the world's first orbital class rocket made from carbon composite material, which is incredibly lightweight for its strength, allowing us to maximize payload capacity, of course, but also giving Electrons their signature black look. Before Electron is fueled, it weighs just 1 ton. But once the tanks are filled with liquid oxygen and kerosene, it weighs more than 12 times that amount. So there you have it, Prachi. Rockets are really just flying fuel tanks with engines to move them in the right direction.
Yeah, pretty simple and very true, Jamie. Speaking of those engines, there are 9 3D printed Rutherford engines on Electron's first stage and a single vacuum-optimized Rutherford engine on the second stage. Now, there is a lesser-known 11th engine on every Electron launch as well, and it is known as Curie. The small but mighty engine is what enables us to maneuver the kick stage in orbit, including raising and lowering orbits to perfectly position satellites that we carry for deployment. Like many rockets, Electron's stages operate a bit like a relay race. The first stage, the single largest structure of the rocket, carries the mission for the first 2.5 minutes of flight, propelling us to around 80 kilometers in altitude. After that, the first stage separates and falls back to Earth in preparation for the second stage to take over the race. That single Rutherford engine on the second stage then burns bright for another 6.5 minutes, propelling us all the way to an elliptical orbit. And then the final leg of the journey is completed by the kick stage, which circularizes the orbit ahead of payload deployment. So now that you know what to expect, let's watch it all unfold in real time as we enter the final minutes of the count. How are we tracking, Muriel?
Hey Prachi, we are at 4 minutes 36 seconds remaining in the countdown to liftoff for No Time Toulouse, and operations are progressing smoothly as we inch closer to engine ignition for today's launch. Now at T-minus 2 minutes, Electron's flight computer will take over the countdown and autonomously run through the final operations. Good oxygen will continue to flow Electron all until T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. We hear a call from mission control when that happens, indicating that the lock system is in recirculation. Then after that, we'll hear confirmation that Electron's first and second stages are fully pressurized and ready for launch. That remains is to listen out for the final 10-second countdown from the launch director. We're going to hand it over now to mission control to listen into that final pre-launch sequence.
All stations LD on mission. From now, there should be no red flags in your critical LCCs. Beacon LD mission.
LD Beacon.
Lock auto sequence and confirm.
Auto sequence is locked.
Confirm all expected flight computer as-goes are green.
That's confirmed.
Okay, all stations, we are go for auto sequence start at T-minus 2 minutes. LD is go for launch.
Vehicle is fully on internal power. AFTS is green and enabled for flight.
Lock load is complete. System is in recirculation. Anti-geyser is disabled.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 tanks are pressed for flight.
High flow engine purge enabled.
T-minus 20 seconds and counting. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.  1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 0
We are on our way to space. Our 50th Electron rocket has taken flight and is headed to orbit carrying 5 satellites for Kinéis. Now up next, you'll hear the call out for max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure, which is the point in flight when Electron experiences peak structural loads. The GNC operator on console will give us the call that max Q is approaching, and then we'll listen out for confirmation of that.
Max Q. Cleared max Q.
Excellent to have that confirmation that we have passed through max Q. We are now at over 2,000 kilometers an hour in speed and just past 17 kilometers in altitude on our way to orbit for Kinéis. Now next up, there are 3 key events for the mission: main engine cutoff, or MECO, stage separation, and then stage 2 engine ignition. MECO is when all 9 Rutherford engines shut down simultaneously on the first stage to prepare for the next phase in flight. Then after those engines are off, Electron's first and second stages will separate. Stage 1 will return back to Earth, while Stage 2 heads in the opposite direction and onward to orbit. Then the vacuum-optimized Rutherford engine on Electron's second stage will light up to propel the stage for this second phase of flight. Now those 3 events all take place in quick succession over just a few seconds, so let's listen in for the calls.
15 seconds to staging.
Entered burnout detect mode.
MECO confirmed.
Stage separation confirmed.
Stage 2 ignition confirmed.
3 successes and 3 milestones down. That was MECO, stage separation, and second stage engine ignition. We are now more than 2 minutes into flight and on the way to orbit for Kinéis. And up next will be fairing jettison, when Electron's fairing splits in 2 and falls away.
Stage 2 guidance is nominal.
Fairing jettison confirmed.
And that there was the call out for fairing jettison, in which you also saw on your screen, exposing the payload of Kinéis' 5 satellites to space ahead of their deployment. Electron is traveling at over 8,000 kilometers an hour and at an altitude past 126 kilometers. Just a couple more minutes remaining in this second stage burn.
Holding nominal.
We are now at T plus 3 minutes 53 seconds into the mission, now more than 9,000 kilometers in speed, going up to orbit of 635 kilometers. Now, Electron's second stage is moving at more than, like I said, 9,000 kilometers an hour, and we are up past 155 kilometers in altitude as we approach orbital velocity. That sweet spot of balance between moving fast enough to travel around Earth, but not so fast that the satellites escape Earth's gravity altogether. Now, our speed target for payload deployment is at least 28,000 kilometers an hour, so we have a little faster to go just yet. We are still partway through the engine burn on Electron's second stage, and one of the things that sets Electron apart from many other rocket designs is the use of electric pumps in the Rutherford engines. Now, those pumps are powered by batteries, which deplete as the engine draws power throughout the flight. But once we use up all that available energy in one set, we switch to a second set of batteries to complete the mission. And once they're dead, then they're gone, and we lose the batteries to drop the extra weight. Now, this clever little maneuver is referred to as the battery hot swap. Keep an eye on your screen to see those shiny silver batteries eject and fall away, and we should hear the call come from Mission Control soon.
HVB battery discharge nominal approaching hot swap in roughly 30 seconds.
Throttling down.
Battery jettison confirmed.
Guidance is nominal, 150 seconds remaining.
There we go. That was battery hot swap for the second stage Rutherford engine. The mission is continuing nominally at more than 16,000 kilometers an hour and now past 204 kilometers in altitude. And up next, we will have the final phase of stage 2 flight, including SECO, or second engine cutoff, which is then followed by kick stage separation. And this is where the kick stage, which is carrying Kinéis satellites, separates from Electron's second stage. No, the final engine cutoff on stage 2 is coming up now, just shy of 9 minutes into the mission. The engine you see on your screen is actually our 499th Rutherford built for an Electron mission, not our 500th engine for our 50th mission like you might expect. And that is because while each Electron features 10 Rutherford engines, 9 on the first stage and 1 on the second stage, we actually recovered and reflew a Rutherford engine on an Electron mission for the first time in 2023. So today instead marks number 499.
Just under a minute.
It is now T plus 8 minutes 22 seconds into the mission, and we are fast approaching second engine cutoff. Now, just before that happens, the Rutherford engine will begin to throttle down in preparation for a complete stop. That milestone is scheduled to take place around 8 minutes 58 seconds into the mission, so let's wait for that confirmation now.
SECO confirmed.
Stage 3 separation confirmed.
Nominal transport.
Great news there from Mission Control. The second stage engine has now shut down and the kick stage has separated. And that means Kinéis satellites are on the kick stage for a coast phase around Earth. Now, once it has looped back around, the 3D printed Curie engine on the kick stage will ignite twice to complete some final positioning maneuvers before the 5 satellites are deployed to their 653-kilometer circular orbit. All that remains now is to wait for those final Curie circularization burns scheduled at around T plus 52 minutes. Over to Jamie and Part 2 to tell us what we can expect from that phase of the mission.
Thanks, Muriel. And yes, that's right. We're on the home stretch of our 50th launch. Right now, the kick stage is coasting around Earth in an elliptical orbit, gradually making its way to the apogee, or the point in orbit where the kick stage is furthest from Earth. Once it reaches that point, the Curie engine will ignite for 2 separate burns to raise the kick stage's orbit and circularize it to 650 kilometers above the Earth's surface.
Around 1 minute after that final burn, the Kinéis satellites will be deployed in sequence. First will be a single satellite deployed off the top of the kick stage, followed by the remaining 4 satellites deployed in pairs from opposite sides. So while we wait for that, enjoy the relaxing tunes from our good friend Tim Dodd, aka the Everyday Astronaut. We'll see you back here soon.
Welcome back to the launch of No Time Toulouse, our 50th Electron launch. Just about 50 minutes ago, Electron lifted off from Launch Complex 1 in New Zealand, carrying 5 satellites for French IoT company Kinéis. Those satellites are now just minutes away from being deployed to their final orbits.
Yes, the kick stage's Curie engine is performing 2 burns today to position the satellites for precise deployment. The first of those has Curie lighting up to place the kick stage and Kinéis payloads on a circular path, what we call circularizing the orbit, and this burn lasts for just under 3 minutes. We're approaching ignition for that shortly.
Curie ignition confirmed.
You heard it right there, a successful Curie ignition. This Curie burn will last about 2.5 minutes, rounding out our orbit from its current 650 kilometer apogee. We only have a few more milestones to go in our 50th launch. Curie shutdown comes next, followed by a second ignition to make a slight adjustment specific to our customer. And then finally, 3 separate deployment sequences for the Kinéis payloads. They'll be about 45 seconds apart, starting with the forward boost satellite. This launch has been tailored specifically to meet Kinéis' mission requirements, giving them greater control over the launch schedule, orbit, and deployment parameters than would be possible on a larger rideshare mission.
Those tailored mission parameters for this launch include an instantaneous launch window and the special Curie burns that Prachi mentioned before. After this first burn to circularize the kick stage's orbit, Curie will ignite again for 8 seconds to set a specific argument of perigee, enabling Kinéis to deploy 5 satellites to a precise orbit as needed. Without getting into the nitty-gritty of orbital mechanics too much, the argument of perigee determines where on the globe the orbit is highest and where it is lowest. A little bit more complicated than that, but that's why we have an expert team here guiding the mission.
Curie engine cutoff confirmed.
There we go. That's engine shutdown of the Curie engine on the kick stage. Up next is payload deployment for the first 5 of Kinéis' planned 25 satellite constellation. Each of the satellites is a 16U platform, so somewhere between the size of a toaster and a microwave, we think, and weighs around 30 kilograms, making the total payload mass of today's Electron launch around 150 kilograms. And with that Curie milestone out of the way, Muriel is joined by a pivotal team member in the development of that small but mighty engine. Let's join Muriel in mission control with Simon Moffat. Muriel?
With Simon Moffat, who has played a key part in our Curie engine on the kick stage. But I will let him introduce himself to you and tell us a bit more about the role that he has here at Rocket Lab. Simon?
Hi, Marielle. Thanks for having me. I'm Simon Moffat. I'm the manager of spacecraft propulsion and physics here at Rocket Lab.
And you have been part of the company for a very long time now.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
It's been 8 years now, yeah. And I was an intern before that, so coming up on almost 10 years since I first started the company.
I wonder what 10 years in Rocket Lab years really is.
It's a long time.
Now, you brought a special treat for us today. Can we hold this up for the camera to see it? And can you please describe to me what this is?
So this is the Curie engine. This is the thrust chamber for the Curie. Normally on Electron, Curie has a bit more going on. There's tanks and valves and a few other things, but this is just this thrust chamber.
Just by size comparison to the Rutherford, it is quite a small rocket engine.
It is a lot smaller. Definitely doesn't pack quite the same punch, but it's quite a precise instrument. Gets us into a very accurate orbit for the payloads.
Is there anything special about this engine in particular? Any sort of nice ways of commemorating it that you have that you might want to tell us about? Leading question there, but
yeah. So I mean, both of our engines are named after great scientists, and Marie Curie is quite an inspiration for us. She was an amazing woman, amazing scientist, and on the chamber here, you won't be able to see it in the camera, but it's printed in every chamber. A quote from her, which is, "The way of progress was neither swift nor easy." And that reminds us that even someone who could win 2 Nobel Prizes didn't find everything easy, didn't get everything done quickly. So makes us feel a little bit better when things take a bit longer.
Kindred spirits, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Is that printed on every rocket? A rocket engine, pardon me?
Yeah, that's right, on every Curie engine.
Wow, very cool. Speaking of printed, Curie is a 3D printed engine as well, is that correct?
Yeah, both Rutherford and Curie are 3D printed. Makes it a lot easier to make the complicated geometry of the chamber.
Can you describe which parts are 3D printed for me, without giving our secrets away, of course?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thrust chamber and nozzle are, and then some of the pieces in here are as well.
Very nice. Now, Simon, congratulations on launch day, of course, launch 50 for you today. How did that feel, watching that from outside of mission control?
It felt amazing. It's a little bit different than Flight 1. I think in Flight 1 we had a lot less visuals on what was going on, a lot less idea of what was going to happen. And definitely we have a lot better understanding of kind of how things are supposed to go. And obviously we're, seeing things happen the way they should.
Now, you touched on it a little bit beforehand, but you've been here since you were an intern, and you've played a pivotal role in helping to develop not only Electron, but Curie itself. What other projects have you moved on to? How else have you grown during your time at the company?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate, actually, to get to do all kinds of different things at Rocket Lab. I even, at one point, did a secondment to the avionics team and worked on the flight termination system. But more recently, moving from the Curie engine and Electron, it's a very obvious progression into our space systems team and the propulsion products for our spacecraft. So more recently, I worked on the Hypercurie engine, and then after that, we've moved over to the Escapade mission, which is a NASA science mission headed to Mars soon.
Amazing stuff. Can you describe to me a bit about what the Hypercurie is for those who don't know?
So the Hypercurie is kind of the upsized version of Curie, hence the hyper in the name. It's a hypergolic, electrically pumped engine, very high performance. That's what got us, got the capstone payload around the moon. And so, it was a long development program, very hard slog for many people, getting through that. many new things developed that just haven't really been done before, especially not flown in space. So it was a really rewarding program to work on, and very cool engine to have developed.
Did you ever think you were going to help develop a rocket engine that would go to the moon for NASA?
Absolutely not, but I feel so fortunate that I've been able to.
Wonderful. Now, you talked a little bit about ESCAPADE as well. Can you describe the work that you're doing with that program?
Yeah, so the team was working on the propulsion system for the ESCAPADE spacecraft. So there's actually 2 spacecraft, so we have to build 2 propulsion systems. It's a little bit of a new type of system for us. I won't go into any of the specific details, but it's been a very interesting challenge, and we're very excited to see that lift off when it does.
There's going to be an exciting mission when it does launch, right?
Absolutely, very exciting.
Now, are we recruiting for anybody to help join you to get ESCAPADE to Mars or any of the other missions that we're working on?
I appreciate you asking. Yes, we have several open roles right now in the propulsion team on Space Systems and the rest of Space Systems, looking for senior engineers and team lead, both in chemical propulsion and in electric propulsion. So, yeah, please take a look at the website.
And now, folks, you know who to ask for an interview. So thank you so much, Simon, for joining me. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Marielle.
Curie ignition confirmed. And Curie engine cutoff confirmed.
Perfect final orbit.
Kinéis 1 deployment confirmed.
There it is, deployment of Kinéis 1. The first satellite of the Kinéis constellation is now at home. Up next will be Kinéis 2 and 4, followed by Kinéis 3 and 5.
Kinéis 2 and Kinéis 4 deployment confirmed.
Swift maneuver there, and Kinéis 2 and 4 are safely in their home in orbit. We're now awaiting confirmation of the final two spacecraft to join their colleagues, starting off the Kinéis IoT constellation.
Kinéis 3 and Kinéis 5 deployments confirmed.
Mission success for No Time Toulouse, our 50th Electron launch. Welcome to orbit, Kinéis. Today's launch was the first of 5 dedicated launches for the team at Kinéis, so we can't wait to do it again soon. Congratulations to each and every person behind this launch and the 49 Electrons that came before it. Making space once is a monumental achievement, so doing it another 50 times is faster than any other commercially developed rocket in history puts us in rarefied air. Now, last but not least, thank you to all of our mission partners who have flown on Electron. You have helped us to make history and create better access to space for small satellites. We are honored you chose Electron as your ride to space, and we can't wait to do it again for the next 50 launches and beyond. Now, while we're celebrating 50 launches today, we won't be pausing for long. In fact, we'll be back again soon with the next Electron on the pad. So stay tuned to our social media channels for mission updates on the next mission. But for now, we will wrap up today's broadcast and see you back here soon. Thank you for joining us, and for the 50th time, this is Rocket Lab Mission Control signing off.
अरे कटेगा
ना,
अरे छिलेगा
फ्लेक्सी हेड वाला जिलेट गार्ड, अब ना कटने छिलने का डर, शेव कर बेफिकर, मलमल जैसा शेव मिले, जिलेट गार्ड शेव कर बेफिकर।
ऐसे जिद्दी दाग निकाले सिर्फ एसआर के।
ये नहीं, टाइड
स्टेट रिमूवल किंग। सुपरस्टार सफाई कहाँ मिलेगी? जी हाँ, टाइड के साथ सिर्फ 60 रुपए में। ऐसे जिद्दी दाग निकाले सिर्फ एसआर के।
ये नहीं, टाइड
स्टेट रिमूवल किंग। सुपरस्टार सफाई कहाँ मिलेगी? जी हाँ, टाइड के साथ सिर्फ 60 रुपए में।
ஏகப்பட்ட தடைய பார்த்துட்டு போற வழியில சுமச்ச கடலின் தூரம் ஏன்டா இன்னும் முடியல வின் பண்ற ஏமோட வெறி எனக்கு இப்ப குறையில உழைக்கிற புள்ள நான் பறக்க போற க்ரூஸ்ல அட்டி கூட சேர்ந்து தொட்டில ஃபுல்லாவே கபடி கபடி போட்டிக்கிட்டி வந்தாலும் முச்சுடாமண்ணா சிட்டிக்குள்ள சுத்தின செட்டிங்க போட்ட ஆளு புடி செட்டில் ஆக துடிக்கும் சூறாவளினா வேர்ல மெட்ரோனம் சி வேர் இஸ் த பீட் ஒன் டு என் செல்ல காத்தாடி சாயுத ஆச்சு சாமான்ல கை வச்சு செஞ்சிட்டமான போல் சிக்கான ஐடியாவை சீக்கிரம் ஒன் சாங் சென்டிமீட்டர் சொக்கத்தங்க கட்டிங்க வின் பண்ண போடுற ஒவ்வொரு செட்டிங்க எனக்கு நான் சொல்லுற ஒவ்வொரு சொல்லு நான் வைக்கிற சாம்பியன் ஓரமா தள்ளுங்க